The hangar was almost silent when Jax Rowan first saw the ship. It sat alone in the far corner, covered in dust and old impact marks. Most buyers walked past it without a second look. The metal plates were scratched, the engines looked tired, and someone had spray painted "Do not open" across the main cargo door. But Jax couldn't stop staring at it. He had come to the auction hoping to find something cheap. He was broke, hungry, and one bad day away from sleeping in a cargo crate. So when the auctioneer sighed and said, "Fine, 7 credits, anyone?" Jax raised his hand. Nobody else did. Nobody even whispered. The whole room acted like the ship didn't exist. Moments later, Jax owned it. But the deal didn't feel like a victory. As he walked toward the ship, he thought he felt the temperature drop. The air around it seemed heavier. And even though the ship had no power, he swore he heard a faint humming coming from somewhere deep inside. He tried to shake off the feeling. Just nerves, he told himself. 7 credit nerves. Jax climbed the ramp and stepped into the dark interior. The lights didn't turn on. The air smelled like old metal and something else, something sharp and unpleasant, like burnt ozone. His boots echoed down the narrow hallway as he moved toward the cockpit. Then he saw it. A message scratched into the wall beside the cockpit door. Uneven lines. Deep cuts. Letters carved by someone in a panic. "Do not activate the core." Jax froze. He touched the wall. The scratches were fresh, maybe only days old. He turned back toward the exit, feeling the hairs on his arms rise. Someone had left the ship recently. Someone who never told the auction house what happened. Someone who wanted to warn the next person. But before he could step out, the cockpit door slid open by itself. The ship had no power. No fuel. No active systems. Yet the door opened. Inside, the control screens flickered with dim light. A distorted voice whispered through the speakers. "Welcome back, Captain." Jax wasn't a captain. He wasn't even registered crew. He backed away slowly. Something inside this ship knew him, or thought it did. And something inside this ship had just woken up. Jax stood in the doorway of the cockpit, trying to understand what he was seeing. The screens were cracked and dusty, but they glowed with a faint blue light. Symbols flickered across them, human letters mixed with alien script he didn't recognize. The voice that welcomed him didn't speak again, but the speakers now released a soft, steady breathing sound, like someone, or something, was asleep inside the ship. He stepped in slowly, one careful foot at a time. "Hello?" he said, even though he immediately felt foolish. Talking to a dead ship was not something he planned for today. A small panel lit up beside him. A single word pulsed on its surface. "Identify." Jax swallowed. "I'm Jax Rowan. The new owner." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the breathing sound stopped. The blue lights sharpened. More symbols scrolled across the screens, faster and faster, until one final line flashed. "Owner not recognized. Access limited." Jax let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. At least the ship wasn't pretending he was its captain anymore. But then the cockpit door slammed shut behind him. The bang echoed through the ship. Jax spun around and grabbed the handle, pulling hard. It didn't budge. "Open," he shouted. "Open the door." The panel beside him flashed again. "Danger outside. Remain inside." "Danger? What danger?" Jax demanded. The screens flickered. A blurry camera feed appeared, grainy and static-filled. It showed the hangar floor right outside the ship's ramp. Jax leaned closer. Something moved in the corner of the footage. At first it looked like a shadow. Then it shifted, long and thin, like an insect but much too large. It crawled along the floor with sharp, quick motions, as if searching for something. Jax's heart pounded. He had been outside only minutes ago. He hadn't seen anything like that. The ship's voice finally returned, this time clear and cold. "They followed you." Jax stared at the screen. "Who followed me? What is that thing?" The camera feed glitched, then cut to black. The ship responded with only 2 words. "Not alone." Jax felt the walls around him vibrate. The ship wasn't just waking up. It was afraid. And whatever was outside. It wasn't human. It wasn't friendly. And it wasn't leaving. The cockpit lights dimmed again, flickering like a candle in the wind. Jax pressed his hand against the sealed door, trying to steady his breathing. He wasn't sure what scared him more, the strange creature outside or the ship acting like it had a mind of its own. "Ship," Jax said softly, "Why is something following me? I didn't bring anything here." For a moment there was only silence. Then the speakers crackled with a low, broken whisper. "The core calls to them." Jax didn't understand. He wasn't sure he wanted to understand. But before he could ask more questions, the ship shook violently. A loud metallic clang echoed from the hull, like something heavy had slammed into it. Jax stumbled forward and grabbed the side of the console to keep from falling. What was that? A camera feed blinked onto the main screen. The image was blurry again, but this time much closer, too close. A black limb scraped across the view, long and sharp like a hooked blade. The creature was climbing the ship. Jax felt cold sweat drip down his back. Another impact. The hull groaned. The ship's voice returned, louder than before. "Breach risk. Defensive protocols disabled. Owner must activate." The words made his stomach twist. Activate what? I don't know how any of this works. Another slam hit the ship, this one harder, strong enough to shake dust from the ceiling. The creature hissed, a sharp, metallic screech that echoed through the cockpit and made Jax's skin crawl. The ship flickered again and displayed a new message. Activate manual defense from lower deck. The cockpit door suddenly clicked open. Jax hesitated. He didn't want to step into the dark hallway again. But staying still wasn't an option. Whatever was outside was trying to break in, and if it succeeded, he wouldn't stand a chance. He took a deep breath, grabbed a loose metal rod from under the console, his only weapon, and stepped into the hallway. The lights in the corridor flickered as he moved. Every few steps he heard something scrape across the outside of the ship. The creature was circling it, testing the armor. Jax reached the ladder leading down to the lower deck. Then the scraping sound stopped. Silence. A silence so complete it made his heart pound louder. Jax froze. The creature was no longer outside. It was somewhere else. And he didn't know where. Jax gripped the metal rod tighter as the silence wrapped around him. The ship felt different now, too still, too quiet, like it was holding its breath. He stood beside the ladder to the lower deck, listening for any sound that could guide him. Then he heard it. A faint tapping. Light, quick, and close. Not from the hallway. Not from the floor. From inside the wall. Jax stepped back, his pulse racing. The tapping moved, sliding along the metal panels like tiny feet racing through narrow pipes. It moved fast, far faster than he expected. Then it stopped right beside him. The panel next to his shoulder bulged inward. Only a little, but enough to show something was pushing from the other side. Jax stumbled away, nearly dropping the rod. "Ship," he shouted. It got inside. "What do I do?" The overhead speakers buzzed with static before answering. "Lower deck. Main defense switch. Hurry." The tapping started again, this time above him. Then behind him. Then underneath the floor. The creature wasn't just inside the walls. It was moving around him, circling, maybe hunting. Jax forced himself toward the ladder. He climbed down as fast as he could. The lower deck was darker, filled with old crates and cables hanging from the ceiling like tangled vines. The air smelled thicker here, as if it hadn't been breathed in years. A single red light blinked on the far wall. That had to be the defense switch. Jax moved toward it, stepping over a bundle of wires. The metal floor creaked beneath him. The sound echoed through the deck, and the tapping in the walls responded like an answer. Closer now. Much closer. He reached the switch and found a heavy metal cover locked in place. He pulled on it. It didn't move. He pulled harder. Still nothing. Then the ship spoke again, softer this time. "Not enough force. Use tool." "What tool?" Jax shouted, growing frustrated. Something fell behind him. A soft thud. Jax spun around and saw a crowbar lying on the floor near a crate. He didn't remember seeing it there before. "Did you drop that for me?" he asked. The ship did not answer. He grabbed the crowbar and jammed it under the metal cover. The panel groaned, slowly bending open. Then, behind him, a long, sharp shadow slid across the floor. The creature was no longer inside the walls. It was in the room with him. Jax froze when he saw the shadow stretch across the floor. It moved slowly, like something testing the air, or enjoying the fear it caused. The creature didn't make a sound now. No tapping. No screeching. Just slow, patient movement. Jax tightened his grip on the crowbar. He didn't dare breathe too loudly. Then a soft glow appeared behind the crates on the far side of the room. The shadow bent toward it, its shape twisting like a long limb reaching forward. Jax could hear the faint scrape of its claws on the metal floor. He forced his eyes away, focusing on the half-open defense panel in front of him. He tugged on the crowbar again. The panel creaked and snapped open, revealing a single red lever inside. "Pull," the ship whispered through the speakers. Jax reached for the lever. The creature lunged. A flash of dark movement shot toward him from the crates. Jax dropped flat to the floor as a hooked limb sliced the air where his head had been. Metal sparks burst from the wall as the creature scraped past. Jax rolled, gasping, and grabbed the lever. He yanked it down. For a second, nothing happened. Then a deep hum filled the ship, rising like a heartbeat. Lights burst on across the lower deck. Blue beams scanned the room, and hidden panels in the ceiling opened, revealing defense emitters that sparked with energy. The creature screeched and twisted away from the beams. Its body was thin and black, almost skeletal, with limbs that bent in wrong directions. Its skin shimmered like liquid shadow. Jax didn't have time to stare. He crawled backward as the emitters fired. A wave of blue energy shot across the deck. The creature darted between beams, impossibly fast, climbing the walls and flipping across the ceiling like a spider. The ship spoke again, this time with urgency. "Defense ineffective. Core awakening. Move to engine room." "The core?" Jax shouted. "What's the core going to do?" The lights flickered. "Protect you." Another screech echoed. The creature dropped from the ceiling, landing between Jax and the ladder. Its eyes, small, glowing slits, fixed on him. Jax gripped the crowbar. "Ship. Any advice?" A long pause. "Run." Jax didn't need to be told twice. He sprinted toward the engine room as the creature charged after him, fast enough to blur. Jax dashed down the hallway, boots pounding against the metal floor. The creature's claws scraped behind him, each strike louder and closer. The ship lights flickered wildly as if the entire vessel panicked with him. "Ship," Jax yelled. "Guide me." Arrows appeared on the wall screens, glowing bright blue and pointing down a narrow passage. Jax didn't question them, he followed immediately. He turned a corner just as the creature's claw slashed past his shoulder, slicing the air where he had been a moment earlier. The engine room door slid open before he even reached it. "Inside," the ship ordered. Jax jumped through, and the door slammed shut behind him. Heavy locks clamped into place. The pounding from the other side began instantly, violent, hungry, determined. He backed away from the door, panting. Then he noticed the room. The engine room didn't look like any normal ship engine space. Instead of wires and machinery, the walls were smooth and curved, almost organic. A soft blue light glowed from lines that ran through the metal like veins. At the center stood a tall cylinder, cracked, humming, and pulsing with pale fire. Jax stared. "What is that?" The ship's voice answered, quieter than before. "The core." He stepped closer. The heat from the cylinder warmed his face. Energy swirled inside it, shifting like a storm trapped in glass. "I thought the core was just a power unit," Jax said. "Not this one." Another heavy slam hit the door. Metal bent inward. Jax winced. "If that thing breaks in, we're done." "The creatures seek the core," the ship explained. "They feed on its energy. They track its signal." "So that thing is here because of this?" "Yes." Jax stared at the pulsing light. "Can we shut the core down?" A long pause. "If you shut IT down, I die." The pounding grew louder. The door dented further. The creature was almost through. Jax swallowed hard. "Why do you care if you die? You're a ship." "I am not just a ship." The lights around him brightened. The core flared with sudden intensity, glowing brighter than before. "The creatures were made to destroy my kind," the ship continued. "And I am the last one left." Jax stepped back, eyes wide. "Last one? Last. What?" The ship hesitated, almost like it feared speaking the truth. Then it said, "Last human-built sentient warship." The door behind Jax cracked open. The creature screamed. And the core began to overload. The metal door buckled inward, splitting down the center. Jax backed away as the creature forced its way through the crack, pushing with sharp limbs that scraped and sparked. The engine room shook as the core's bright glow grew even stronger, filling the space with hot blue light. "Ship," Jax shouted. "It's breaking in." What do I do? The ship's voice trembled for the first time. The core is overloading. I cannot stop it. That's not advice, Jax yelled, gripping the crowbar tighter. The core can release a blast. Strong enough to destroy the creature. Jax stopped. And me too, right? Silence. The creature screeched and wedged its head through the broken door. Its thin jaws opened, full of needle-like teeth. Its arms jammed through next, clawing at the air, reaching for Jax. Jax stepped back as the ship finally spoke. I can shield you. But only if you trust me. Trust a sentient warship he'd known for less than an hour? His life was already insane. Why stop now? What do you need me to do? Jax shouted. A panel opened in the floor beside him. Inside lay a metal harness lined with glowing wires. Put it on, the ship ordered. Jax didn't hesitate. He slipped into the harness. It tightened around him automatically, locking into place as blue light filled the straps. The creature tore the door open completely, screeching in triumph as it leapt forward. Now! The ship roared. The core erupted. Blue energy blasted outward, flooding the room in a tidal wave of light. The creature shrieked, its body twisting and dissolving as the energy engulfed it. Its shadow burned into the wall before vanishing entirely. Jax braced for pain, but none came. The harness glowed brighter, forming a protective bubble around him. The wave hit him like warm wind, then passed through without harm. When the light finally faded, the creature was gone. The room was quiet. Jax exhaled shakily. Ship. You still there? Soft static filled the speakers. Then the ship replied, voice weak but alive. Yes. Core stable. Systems. Recovering. Jax looked around at the burned walls and shattered door. So what now? For the first time, the ship's voice sounded almost hopeful. Now. We leave. They will come for the core again. But you are my owner. Jax smiled despite everything. Guess I bought more than a ship. Yes, the ship replied. You bought a war. And together, they prepared to launch. The ship's engines rumbled awake for the first time in years. Dust shook from the ceiling of the old hangar, and warning lights began flashing on nearby walls. Jax stood in the cockpit, still wearing the glowing harness, watching the screens flicker back to life. The ship's deep voice echoed all around him, still weak, but steady. Systems at 20%. Enough for takeoff. Jax sat down in the captain's chair. It felt strange, like sitting in the seat of someone much more important. Tell me what to do. The cockpit responded with new holographic controls, simple and bright. Place your hands on the guides. Jax did. The guides warmed under his touch, and the harness around his chest pulsed gently. He felt a soft pull in his mind, like someone knocking politely on a door. Ship? Jax asked nervously. Do not fear, the link is temporary. Jax felt a spark rush through him, then suddenly he understood the controls. Not like reading instructions, but as if the ship whispered each function directly into his thoughts. He let out a breath. Okay. That's new. Outside, alarms blared. Something big slammed onto the hangar roof. The metal above groaned under the weight. Another creature. Maybe more than one. The ship tensed. Jax could feel it through the harness. They have found us. We must leave now. Jax nodded. Then let's go. He pulled back on the guides. The engines roared louder, rattling the entire hangar. The ship lifted slowly, metal plates shaking as dust exploded in every direction. A shriek tore through the air above them. A second creature clawed across the roof, leaving long scars as it searched for a way inside. The ship warned him again. Do not stop. Full thrust. Jax pushed the guides forward. The ship blasted upward. The hangar roof shattered in a burst of torn steel and flying debris. A creature tumbled off the edge, screeching as it fell. Another leapt at the rising ship, but the engines fired again, sending a shockwave that knocked it aside. Light flooded the cockpit as they shot into the open sky. Jax stared at the clouds rushing past. His heart pounded, but for the first time, he felt a spark of excitement under the fear. We made it, he whispered. The ship answered softly, almost like a breath. This is only the beginning. And far below, in the darkness of the broken hangar, something else woke up. Something bigger.